All right, you guys, so we're back here on TABE Reading M. We're about to start Strategy 7. We're about halfway through this book, so we're making some real progress here. Today's lesson is pretty long. There's quite a bit to it, but it is important. But if you feel like you need to break it into two parts, to pause the video and come back to it, that's certainly okay. But this is an important lesson to understanding reading passages that you encounter both on the test and in the real world, is being able to analyze what kind of text you're looking at and what its function is supposed to be. All right, so remember, we're working in the TABE Reading M book. Get your paper copy that you got from your intake location. If you don't have a paper copy, then you can open the digital scans here in Canvas. Just go to the Files section and the TABE Reading M pages, and this is Strategy 7. And we'll get started. So describe and compare text structures. The way an author organizes information in a passage is called text structure. There are five main text structures. Authors use a structure based on topic. They also choose based on their reason for writing. Identifying the text structure can help you understand and remember information. So, understanding the structure may be a key to understanding the author's purpose, like the author's reason for writing in the first place. And if you know the author's purpose, then you have a real good head start on determining the main idea, because purpose and main idea are linked quite closely. The purpose of most passages is to deliver whatever main idea that is. But as we'll see, they can take several different forms or structures depending on what the needs of the author are. Authors use a certain text structure because it fits their topic. They also use a text structure because it fits their purpose for writing. For an example, an author might use a sequence text structure to explain how to bake a cake. So sequence is, in order from beginning to end, from first to last, from early to late. A sequence structure would let the author explain directions step by step. But what if an author wanted to explain why a homemade cake was better than a store-bought cake? Then a comparison structure would be better. So, slight differences in the topic of a passage could dictate a different text structure. If you're delivering a recipe, you want to deliver it in a sequence. One step leads to another, and if you get something out of order, the recipe is not going to turn out correctly. But, on a similar topic, which cake is better, a store-made or, a store-bought or homemade, then comparison structure. And we'll get into what comparison structure and sequence structure look like specifically here in a minute. But the point is here that, small differences in topic can dictate a much different text structure. Make sure in your own writing that your structure fits what you're trying to say. And when you're analyzing the writers of others, that structure can help you figure out what they're trying to say. When you compare text structures, you look at how they are alike. When you contrast, you look at how they're different. Comparing and contrasting text structures helps you think about the information in each passage. It also helps you identify an author's purpose. Thinking about the information and the author's purpose can help you understand and remember what you read. As you read, look for clue words that can help you identify each text structure. Then think about why the author chose each text structure. Okay, so in this chart we have the 5 text structures that we're exploring here, and we have their definition, what they are. But then in italics we also have some clue or signal words that often clue us into what kind of text structure that we're looking at. And as I read some of them off, I think it'll become clear how they indicate the text structure. But first is comparison. And a comparison text is comparing two or more things. It says show how two people are alike, but there could be two or more. Certainly there's no limitation on how many things we can compare. But people, places, events, things, we're showing how they're alike and how they're different. Something to clarify here. Up here in the lesson it says comparing and contrasting are different things, and they are. Comparing is finding the similarities. Contrasting is finding the difference. But in a comparison text, we just go ahead and assume that it has both. It's showing both similarities and differences. So in the world of text structure, a comparison text does more than just compare, it also contrasts as well. And clue words could be, similar, to, also, like, as in this thing is like another, or contrast, in contrast to, something is different, unlike. So, our language sets us up to see comparisons, how things are alike, and contrast, how things are different. So, first of all, when you're analyzing text structure, look for those words that can clue you into the type of text it is. But then also understanding, the purpose and what the text is talking about can also give you a clue to its purpose. Sometimes it's going to be really clear. There's a problem that affects people. Here's a solution to that problem. It'll be pretty clear cut. But sometimes it'll take some thinking and analysis to identify the text structure. And honestly, it gets more complicated because while one large passage may have a particular text structure, there's nothing that says within that passage there could be individual paragraphs or sections that have a different text structure. So when we have them nested within each other, that can make it kind of complicated, obviously. But we're not dealing with a ton of that, certainly with this. All right, our second type is cause and effect. And so it explains the cause of something, why it happens, and then also explains in detail, describes the effect. Certainly there is connection between cause and effect, and the writer is making sure to explain and connect cause and effect in a way that is clear and that makes sense and that's accurate. You wouldn't want to mistakenly describe the cause of an event, misattribute it. So cause and effect papers are pretty technical and thorough. A lot of times in scientific text we'll see cause and effect. So-and-so is causing climate change. The effect is climate change. What are the causes? And things like that. Clue words, because, since, so, as a result, that's a good one that indicates cause and effect. Leads to, due to, therefore, which signals cause and effect. This happens, therefore there's this particular effect. So again, look at the signal language, the words that can indicate what sort of text structure that you're looking at. Okay, problem and solution. It's similar to cause and effect. We're dealing with something that is proposed and something that comes about because of that proposal. But it's a little bit different. We're describing a problem and its solution, not a cause and its effect. Now, obviously, there can be cause and effect within, a problem. Something is causing a particular problem. So there may be some cause and effect in describing what causes the problem. But the difference is problem and solution will offer just that, a solution, indicating that this particular problem is happening. Here is a solution that will work. Or sometimes they'll review multiple solutions and try to come to some idea about which one would be most effective and why. So be on the lookout for solutions to problems or to effects within a passage, and that indicates that we're dealing with problem solution and not just cause and effect. And look for these signal words. Again, problem, issue, solution, solve, result. Okay, next one is pretty clear cut, chronology. Fancy word for a basic concept that means timeline. The prefix chrono means time, so we're dealing with the passing of time in chronology. Chronology is listing things from first to last, from beginning to end, from early to late. Particularly with historical texts that are describing, some historical event that occurred over a period of time, maybe days, weeks, years, or so on. They will relate those events to you in the order that they happened. It only makes sense when we're talking about a historical event. Chronology also encompasses sequencing. Chronology, sequencing, same thing, putting things in their correct order. So, a science experiment will have oftentimes a chronology or sequencing text structure where they tell you how to, perform the experiment from the beginning steps to the ending steps. Now, one thing to be on the lookout for with chronology, though, is that there's nothing that prevents a text from mentioning a later event that happens and then returning to describe, in order the things that led up to it. You could say something like, the Revolutionary War began in 1776. Here are the events that happened earlier that led up to it. You see, I'm kind of breaking my chronology, at least in the order that ideas are mentioned in the paragraph, but I'm not really breaking the chronology of the text itself or of the historical event. I'm just kind of revealing, here's what happened in the end, and here are the things that led in that direction. Our clue words are definitely words that sequence, like first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. Next, last, finally, continue, later, then. Words that indicate sequence or the passing of time, or when something happens in relation to something else, clue us in that we're dealing with a chronology. Okay, and our last text structure is description, and it describes or provides details about a topic by answering who, what, when, where, why, and how questions. So describing something in detail. In description, there could be a little bit of some of the others in there. Comparison, cause and effect, problem and solution. But what you're really looking for, or on the lookout for with this, are examples of a certain thing. If we said that there's a general concept that is true, and then, here are some examples of how that is true. Or, let's say that we were describing the parts of the human body. We might describe each of those parts in detail. The parts of the body would be examples. So we're trying to describe body systems, and then we might have examples of organs within those body systems. So we're on the lookout for words like, for example, in addition, to illustrate. So, description is trying to give us a practical view of an idea, oftentimes by showing us examples describing how something works. Okay, at this point, you're going to pause the video here in just a second and read this passage. It's an informational passage, not literary. It's about Habitat for Humanity and what they do for housing in our society. So you're going to read through that, and then you'll come back with me and don't restart the video. Press play on the video, and we'll go over the work that goes with all of these passages. You've got that one. You have one on the benefits of walking. You have another one on procedures for washing windows. You have yet another one on online learning, online education. So there's quite a bit here, and yet another passage on volcano smog, or VOG. So a lot to do here. You're going to have this video paused for quite a bit, and when you come back, there's going to be quite a bit left as we go over and talk about the answers to some of these questions. All right, so you should have finished all of this work, but we're going to start off talking about the passage that was about Habitat for Humanity. And our first question says, reread the first paragraphs of the passage. We're going to skip that part on video. What text structure does the author use? How do clue words help you to identify the text structure? How do they help you predict what the author will talk about next? All right, so our answer says the author uses a problem and solution text structure. So the problem is that housing is unaffordable for many families. A potential solution is Habitat for Humanity and what they do. Clue words, problem, and issue help identify what the problem is. They help the reader predict what the author will talk about, that the author will talk about the problem, and then talk about what the solution to the problem is. And so, yeah, if there's detailed description of a problem in a text, then there's almost a promise implicit in there that they're going to propose a solution, or more than one solution to it. Okay, so moving on to number 2, give an example of another problem solution in the text. Okay, so building a house requires labor that is costly. That in a habitat project, there may not be the money to pay the labor. So the solution is that the recipients of the habitat home perform some of the labor themselves. They earn equity through their labor on the house. So there's another problem solution within the text itself. Okay, number 3, what type of text structure is used in paragraph 2, and that's paragraph 2 specifically. And let's just go back and look at it for a second. Okay, so it looks like our problem is that families need to save money in housing and move in together, but the resulting problem is that the apartment or home becomes overcrowded. So that leads us to the here in paragraph 3 and then 4, we have the Habitat for Humanity coming in as the solution to this problem. And then lastly, number 4, what type of text structure is used in paragraph 6? I have that it's chronology. Let's return to it and take a look at it. So it's talking about how recipients do put in some of the labor on the home, but it describes the steps, the process in chronology, in sequence throughout there. All right, moving on to the questions that go with the next passage, which is on the benefits of walking. And actually, so the questions will pick back up here in just a minute because we're also looking at the online learning. Okay, I misspoke. So we're looking at the one on the benefits of the walking, but that's paired up with the next one, which is the right way to wash your windows, which is a procedural text telling us how to do a certain thing. So let's move actually to the questions themselves. Okay, reread paragraphs 1 through 4 of the right way to wash your windows. What text structure is used? Well, let's just go ahead and say it's chronology in sequence, which is also the case in a lot of these procedure essays or articles that are guiding you through a procedure and the steps that you take to accomplish it. Okay, number 6, what's the author's purpose for writing Walk On? Is to show the healthy benefits of walking. The content of the passage itself tells us a lot about the author's purpose. And of course, it's cause and effect. The cause of being unhealthy is lack of exercise. The cause of being healthy could be exercise. All right, number 7, what's the author's purpose for writing the right way to clean your windows? How does the structure the author use help indicate the purpose? Well, we could say to teach or how to clean windows, but not quite enough. How about this? To describe safe and effective window cleaning. And of course, he uses a sequence throughout because there are steps involved in this procedure. But he's not just teaching us how to wash windows, but part of his purpose is to show us how to safely wash windows. And then number 8, how would both passages be different if they were written using the structure of the other? It's an interesting question. With the dirty windows, maybe we would have the benefits of keeping your windows clean. With the walking, maybe we would have more description about, how to start walking. And I know that we all know how to walk, but how to start walking for exercise, like what kind of equipment to buy and all that sort of thing. Shoes, clothes, wear, that kind of thing. So the essays could have been on the same topic, but have used a different text structure, which would have led to a different purpose as well. Okay, y'all, we're finally on the multiple choice questions here. Let's make sure I'm not skipping anything. Here we go, question 9. And we had a couple more passages that you should have read at this point. The online learning essay that I mentioned, and then the volcanic smog passage as well. So question 9. Reread paragraphs 4 and 5 from Is Online Learning Right for You? Which of these best describes the structure? And it's B, the compare and contrast structure. Comparing an online learning environment with a traditional in-person learning environment. And of course, contrast is also part of that. Okay, number 10. Which of these best describes the structure that's used in this paragraph? And it's D, identifies what causes VOG to spread and explains the effect of its spread. So in other words, cause and effect text structure. Okay, 11 is a gigantic question. It says, which of these best explains the difference in structure between the two paragraphs? And what we had here was a sample paragraph from each of those two texts to go with these questions, the online learning one and the volcanic smog. But our answer here is C. The author of the first paragraph shows how online learning and traditional classes are alike and different. We talked about that actually in the first question that went with this. But the author of the second paragraph shows the effects of sulfuric acid in fog. So first one is compare, contrast, comparison text, and then the second one on the VOG is cause and effect. And that actually ends this lesson. It was a bit of a long one, but it's important, and I will have more practice for you on text structures for sure. As you finish this video, make sure to click on the practice activity that's underneath of it to get plenty of additional practice and to become comfortable working with these concepts and ideas. All right, I'll see you next time for Strategy 8. Have a great day.